KCC311, week number 2, we need to make a graph of categorical data for our assignment. Now, you know, for last week video, the categorical data we can represent with the pie chart, a bar chart, or an icon chart. This video, we're not going to get into icon charts, but pie charts, bar charts, we can do them. Let's go to the spreadsheet and check it out. All right, I'm having problems with spreadsheets all day. We'll see what we can get here. The computer's been slow. At very least, I'm going to solve this using Google Sheets. If you're using Microsoft Excel, it'll be virtually the same, but Google Sheets, of course, all Kendall students have access to, so I want to make sure we are aware how to do it there. First thing, if you're making a categorical graph, you need to identify what are the categories. I'll make a simple example here, male and female. What if I'm measuring, say, 10 men in a classroom and 15 women in a classroom? That is categorical data. It's nice and summarized here, and we can make a graph fairly easily. If I highlight the numbers, if I go to insert, I hit the chart, and I should get a nice little graph. Wait a minute. This graph looks a little one-sided. Something's missing. Go up to where it says column chart, hit this little arrow down here, and I'm going to hit stacked column chart, and now this looks a little more familiar. On Google Sheets, that stacked column chart, we should have 10 for the men and 15 for the women. So the graph looks good. I need some labels. So if I'm looking sideways on the horizontal axis, also known as the x-axis, I can click this little grid and say what data, I should say what labels, but I highlight what I'm trying to label things with. I have male and female. That's a nice graph. In its essence, that's what I'm looking for week 2 assignment. Now, this is a simple example, male and female in a classroom. How do we apply this to big data? Let's go check it out. So if I click this is my big data set, beach water quality. So I'm looking at the quality of water in Chicago. And I got temporal data here. I got all these quantitative data. But here's some categorical data, the name of the beach where I'm studying the water. So if I go over here, you see I've sort of organized it. I've highlighted just the beach names. And I've highlighted the categories. I did this all ahead of time just to save a little bit of time. And now the question is, how many? How many of my big data measurements are from 63rd Beach? How many of my big data is from Rainbow Beach? And so on. We need this. There's almost 30,000 different beaches in here. So I'm going to need the power of the spreadsheet to do the counting. Here's how we're going to do it. Equals count if. And this is the same in both Microsoft Excel and Google Sheets. Equal count if. I click count if. And the formula is asking me, type in what I'm trying to count. Well, I'm trying to count this big data. And notice I didn't click a cell. I clicked the A up at top. All my big data. Comma, 63rd Street Beach. You see there's two parts. The first part is the big data. The second part is what am I looking for? Close the parentheses, hit enter, and it does all the work for me. It says, oh, there's over 3,400 different big data points in the data set from there. Equals, let's try it again. Count if, I see it, double click it. Click my big data, comma, click the beach that I'm looking for, in this case, Rainbow Beach. Close it, hit enter. There's almost 3,300 data points from Rainbow Beach. It's the same formula right down the line. So anytime you see a pattern in Excel or Google Sheets, you can click the box, click the little square in the corner, and pull it down. And Microsoft Excel continues the pattern right down the line. In other words, it just told me for every single beach, it tells me how many data points I have at that beach. I put the categories, it gave me the numbers for it. So I highlight those numbers. I go up to insert. I go to chart. And it takes a second, but ta-da, I got this nice little chart. Excellent. This is exactly what I'm looking for. If you want, let's go for a pie chart. Get some nice colors, get some nice percentages. And remember, I need some labels. So labels, I click this little grid here, beach categories. I go highlight those beaches, hit OK, and look at my graph. From the big data, I have now broken it down into categories, and I can tell you how much in each category. For week 2 homework, you need to do something similar with your big data set. Now, I'm going to do one very last thing. I did the categories with this, the categorical data, which beach name. However, you can also do categorical data with quantitative data. Let me do that very quickly. I'll show you how here. So I need to insert a category. So I'm going to go over here. Actually, I'm going to insert 2 categories. Insert one right. Some little blank categories. Now, we know that anytime you do a categorical graph, we need categories and we need frequency. Now, I'm measuring turbidity. That's a fancy word for how dirty is the water. And high numbers like that, that's like, whew, stay away from the water. And down here it gets smaller and smaller, probably the numbers around 50 or so, or when, you take the kids to the beach and so forth. So what am I trying to do? I'm trying to look at categories. What if I had this above 50? In other words, I'm taking quantitative data and I'm breaking it into 2 categories, above 50 and below 50. How can I count that? How can I count how many of these numbers are above 50 and how many are below 50? equals COUNTIF, like we did before. Click the big data, like we did before. Now watch this. This is where it gets a little technical. Put a quotation mark, put a bigger symbol, and then type the 50. That's what I want. I want it to be bigger than 50. And close the parentheses. It tells me there's 381 days that those beaches were above 50 in terms of the turbidity or dirty water. COUNTIF. Click the big data, comma, hit the quote mark, hit the less than symbol, 50, and another quote. And I finish it. And it says over 34,000 of the time it's below 50. So in other words, yeah, we're saying above 50, that's really dirty. Below 50, that's most of the time. And so maybe if I did some more research, I could figure out what another cutoff. Maybe 25 is too big. Maybe 15. These are all water questions. The main thing is I want you to understand this formula right here, the COUNTIF formula. How did I break the quantitative data up into two categories, above 50 and below 50? And then once I have that, of course, I can highlight these two. I can go to insert, I can create graphs and charts like this sort of thing, or I can make a little pie chart. Ooh, there's a donut chart. It's slightly different. It says 1% of the time the water's really dirty. You see where I'm getting at. There's lots of ways to take your big data, and you can break it up by categorical, by the beach names or whatever categorical data you have. You can break it up by quantitative data using above 50 and below 50. You can make a graph, and that's what you're going to use in your week 2 assignment. You got any questions about more details how to do that? Please let me know. And obviously, if you have questions accessing Google Sheets or getting acquainted with Microsoft Excel, also send me email, reach out, and hopefully I can address those concerns. However, week number 2 assignment, you're going to take your big data set and you're going to owe me a graph on the categorical data.